Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board for this Wednesday, July 17th, 2019. Could we have roll call, please?
Bow.
I am here.
Garrity. Nordentoff.
Here.
Path. Pasak.
Here.
Riley. And Sula.
Present. We do have a quorum. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our meeting that was held on May 15th. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Approval of the minutes from May 15th. If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Nordentoff, second by Mr. Pasak. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Second item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the meeting that was held on June 5th. Any questions, comments, or changes? If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Nordentoff, second by Mr. Pasak. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing request from GWR Illinois Property Owner LLC is seeking a major modification to the Great Wolf Lodge special use permit at 1700 Nations Drive. Clara.
Yep. GWR Illinois Property Owner LLC is seeking a major modification to the Great Wolf Lodge special use permit to allow day pass sales for the existing water park. The subject property is zoned C2 PUD, Community Commercial District, as a planned unit development and is located at 1700 Nations Drive. As with all major modification petitions, the Planning and Zoning Board will make a recommendation which will be forwarded to the Village Board for their determination. The petitioner is in attendance to present the request and answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, thank you. As this item is a public hearing, I would request that anyone from the petitioner or members of the general public that intend to give testimony, ask questions, or otherwise comment to please stand and be sworn in by the village attorney.
You can raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Right, this is just for Great Wolf, yep. Okay,
This is for the Great Wolf matter. Okay.
I can't hear you that well.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
We'll try to speak up.
yeah, and Stuart, if you can hear me, can you turn up the house speakers a little bit? Is there anything that you care to add? Whoa, we went really hot. All right. Excuse me, I'm sorry, you need to use the microphone. Because we do record all these things.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Better?
Yes.
Okay, good. First of all, thank you for hearing this evening. Appreciate everybody's support and the staff that's been working with us on this. My name's Steve Jacobson. I'm Vice President of Domestic Development for the U.S. and Canada for Great Wolf, so all development for the lodge and the company is my responsibility. I have a counterpart that takes care of international. I'm also have been here many times prior with Gurnee Mills and all the other stuff when I was working for Mills, so it's good to be back and be working with some of the same folks again. What I thought would be good, I always like kind of just, instead of just diving into, oh, here's the request, this is what we want to do, I think it's good to kind of set the table. What I want to do is just, if it's okay, I would like to do just a quick update on what we're doing as a company, what we're doing across the country and internationally, and then kind of give the State of the Union of how the lodge is doing now compared to what was there. And then I'll get into some of the programming and new things we're doing at the lodge that you may not be aware of, things we're doing nationally with advertising that helps bring people to Gurnee. And then, if it's okay, I'll get into the specifics of what we're requesting. So, this map right here, slide down just to here. So this just basically shows a lot of people don't realize that we have over 17 lodges already open throughout the United States. We have 2 under construction. One is in Scottsdale, which is on the property where the Arizona Diamondbacks and Colorado Rockies play. It's on that same lane that the Tribe owns for those ball diamonds. And so that particular lodge opens up September of this year. Up in California, up near San Francisco, it's really just a little bit south of Sacramento, is a project in Manteca, California. That one's currently under construction and will open up about a year from September. And then we have pre-construction activities going on, and that basically means is we're in active conversations with the municipalities, project outside of Houston, El Paso, project in South Florida, and we're in the middle of hopefully starting construction at the end of this year in a project in Perryville, Maryland, which is really halfway between Philadelphia and Baltimore. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm standing in your way. And then we also have property under control in Mexico City. We also have the water rights there, which is huge to be able to have that. So we're hoping by the end of this year that project will start. And then we have a project under control in the UK just outside of London. Next. Again, this pretty much outlines what I'd said earlier. But as it relates to the financial performance, in our first full year of operation, we're expecting nearly double the revenue that was generated from the property for what it was before. And we're expecting an increase of about 20% increase in occupancy from what was there before, as well as where we're heading. That includes room rates, on-site spend. And then the other thing that's important, one thing that we've kind of changed, we've seen a real big uptick in our occupancy, is each project had somewhere between $4.5 and $5 million a year for advertising. And you can imagine that in some of the bigger markets, it doesn't go very far. You know, TV's pretty expensive. So we've kind of did a revamp. What we did is we've now taken all 17 lodges, pooled that $4.5, $5 million. Now we've got a much larger pool. And so we're doing national advertising. You may have already seen it on TV. So the advertising is more about it's more of a teaser, families having fun, you know, in the water park and spending time together. And then we just do the tagline, you know, at Gurnee, Illinois, at, you know, Manteca, California. So we found it's been more efficient, but we've also been able to get deeper into the markets, into the New York market, San Francisco market, Chicago, and elsewhere. And so we're definitely seeing that helping us on our overall occupancy level and market awareness. Another thing that you may or may not be aware of is, you know, certainly throughout the year there's different segments of the season that signify. Certainly the holiday season's the easiest one. And we pretty much, I think, hit that one out of the park as far as the programming we do to make it special. But what we've started this year is it's called the summer camp program. And we're basically emulating what kids would do at summer camp. So it's everything from the activities to the clothing that all of our PAC members wear to what we do in the different rooms. And so it's a way to add another layer of activities and fun besides what we already have in the water park. So if you could go up the next slide. And so, as we say here, you know, through this experience, we speak to the guests through a unique marketing campaign, which I talked about. We're now creating another opportunity to play in the lodge, obviously inside. And then we've engaged our PAC members with a whole new programming and camping with themed uniforms. And our NPS scores have gone up, and that's basically, you know, how does the customer rate their experience in our lodge? And so it's been a really plus for us. Next slide. A lot of different things we've done, you know, just like in scouting where you can earn little badges and your merit badges, we've got the same thing for kids. So it's all different types of things, from learning about the environment, animals, just all different things for them to learn and educate and have fun. Next one. This is fun. We kind of start out with the kickoff, we call it the Ducky 500. So all the kids get to put their names on little ducks, and we put it at the top of the slide, the top of the highest one. And whatever the top 4 or 5 ducks that cross over, kids get prizes. It's fun. They're all screaming and yelling, rooting for their ducks. But just another fun thing for kids. And then at the end of the day, we besides all the other craft activities, they have, you know, story time with s'mores. They do they call it the hustle and howl dance, late evening competitions in Adventure Park, and just all other things that you'd expect to do at summer camp. And then next slide. We've also offered different amenities in the room. You can see here where we've kind of emulated little tents. That's a little Lexon little dome with a LED light that replicates kind of a little fire, campfire. Next slide. And then you can see here it's a little darker with the teepee and the same thing. So it's just, you know what, it's just another thing to add, keeping the experience fresh, something different every time you come to the lodge. The other big thing that we've done is certainly social media. We've really expanded that. We've brought in a lot of people a lot younger than me that understand social media better than I do. And that and the national campaign has really helped us quite a bit. So what I want to get to now is the day pass overview and the testing. And so I want to spend a little bit about the two most important things to us are safety and customer experience. And so before we decided to dive into this day pass, we actually created a pilot program, brought in 2 outside agencies that specialize in testing, evaluating, and analyzing all of the results. And they were also some of the people that were doing call it the fake day passes, and our lodge members didn't know who they were. So it was another way to kind of test to see if we were handling it right. So we started in January and it ended in May, and it was, we tested the system. There were some lodges where we oversold. What happens? What's the breaking point? What happens if we oversell? Do the restaurants, can they not handle the capacity? Do we have problems with parking? Does security have issues? So we evaluated all of those issues from 6 different lodges and put that together and evaluated that to put together the program that we think makes sense. Go to the next slide. So we took, like I said, we took a look at everything. The retail, companionships, birthday parties, all the things that go into the day passes to see how it would affect the customer experience. Next slide. And then you can see here, these are the things that were measured. Parking lot, front desk arrival experience, ticket pickup, admissions into the water park entrance, how did that get handled? Seating, were there seating challenges within our restaurants? And then just the overall water park activities. What's important for us is in the water park that if you want to go down the big slide 13, 14 times, you're not standing in a line of 50, 60 people deep. So it was real important for us to understand how all of that worked, as well as the NPS scores. So since the temporary approval, specifically in Gurnee here, that we got about 4 weeks ago, since the approval, we've had no issues with the operations of the lodge or reduction in NPS scores. And this is, of course, the whole portfolio. So I personally talked to 4 of the managers in other locations. We do get a report every week, and there has been no issues. And I'll explain a little later why there aren't any issues. The online booking has been in sync with occupancy levels. That basically is tied to we only sell based on what the projected vacancy is, not on just a fixed number. So we're always controlling that element and that experience in the park. We found that it drove more sales to the rooms. So what we've done is we've inched up the price. So if you're coming there and it's going to cost you $40 and you've got 5 kids, you're like, well, whoa, why don't I just get a room? I can get a room for 100. If it's in the trough period, I can get it for 150 or 180. So we've actually drove more sales to the rooms, which then in turn our RevPAR, which is revenue per room, has gone up because now they're staying overnight and they're eating dinner and everything else. The day pass portfolio average, so if you take all the lodges, all 17, the day pass portfolio only has been represented between 0.08% and 2.7%. Gurnee has been doing better over the last 4 weeks. They're at about 2.1%. So that's 2.1% of the total population that came, all the guests, 2.1% is the day passes, is what we've been averaging. You will certainly see that go up in the trough season. So as we get later into the fall, into the early winter, you'll certainly see that percentage go up. I know there were some concerns about how this might overlap or conflict with Great America. As you can see, it's not even moving the needle here. So I think we've proven that it's controlled, and I'll get into the controls and how we're managing that. But we're pleased with this. It's been successful, and like I said, we haven't had any issues. So here's some of the guidelines that we've, at least we've said that we've agreed to and we will agree to. So what we do is we take the total inventory at any given day in the water park, and let's just say I'm looking forward to this weekend, and I say, you know what, I've got 10 vacant rooms. So basically what we do is you take the rooms times 4.4, which is our average occupancy per room, and that's the number of day passes that I can sell. We also have given ourselves a little cushion here of plus 40, but again, when we did that test pilot system, our ride capacity exceeds the demand based on the size of the rides and the amounts of the rides. So again, we tested all of that in the pilot program. The other thing that we've agreed for Gurnee is that we will never sell the pass less than $40 unless it's a charity event or a special fundraiser or something like that. And that will basically increase that by the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So again, never will that be kind of this discounted, oh, $10 today. So again, driving, our idea, what our method to our madness is to drive traffic so that you get the room, but you still have the opportunity for local residents to do the day passes. And the day passes is really what benefits the local residents, because basically it's almost like just in time. So you can go online and you can take a look and you say, oh, next Tuesday we can go, there's 4 day passes, and you lock them in and you go, hey family, and we're calling an audible. Nobody's going to school on Tuesday. We're going to Great Wolf, or we're going to go down, the water park. So it's really helpful for the local residents. The other thing that we've done is that someone 21 years of age has to purchase the ticket, not only purchase it, but actually attend, be in the water park with the people. So again, what that does, it enhances and protects the family experience, and that was important to us. We also have a maximum ratio of 1 adult to 4 kids, so if a mom or dad's got 2 kids and they got 2 friends, they can get into the water park. But again, adult has to buy the tickets, and the adult has to be there at the same time. Property will also maintain reasonable access controls at the water park, and that's really about safety. So right now, everybody's got an RFID. If you go into the water park, you have to have that, whether you're a day pass or in the hotel. So we know who's in the water park, how many people are in there. We're monitoring that all the time. And then, let's see, the way the day passes are set up, it's not where you can just, crash the front desk and say, I want a day pass. You either have to call or go online. Again, it's a way to control it. The manager can see where he's at, he or she, where they're at with occupancy, and control that maximum mix. And then again, obviously never exceeding fire code or occupancy requirements. So that's kind of in a nutshell where we're at as a company, how this lodge is doing, and then what we're proposing, we're requesting as far as the day passes go. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members of, any questions from members of the planning and zoning? Yes, Josh? Did I misread?
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking through my
Okay.
question and how to word it, because I think as a board, we're trying to, if we change this, what's going to happen is parking is going to be impacted, traffic's going to be impacted, right? That's what we're trying to think through.
Yeah, I mean, our main focus tonight should be focused on the actual use. The other things about, the pricing and the annual adjustments, that's beyond our purview.
Yeah.
So ours is all about health and safety and,
Yep.
and parking and traffic and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was just, yeah, exactly. And,
Okay.
and the reason I preface my question with that thinking is every day you're going to have 40 passes. I saw that, right? Plus unoccupied rooms times 4.4. Okay, so what I don't know and what's not in here is sort of a monthly or daily outlay of how many additional, I guess, passes what does that look like? What's your estimate or LBE for that, a year out or by every month based on your occupancy rates?
Good question. So right now, that 2.1% represents somewhere between 380 and 400 day passes that have been for the last 4.5 weeks. And has not affected parking. We've not maxed out on our parking. And the other thing to understand is that the people that travel to the lodge obviously don't conflict with typical rush hour traffic, because people are checking in or going to the water park later in the morning because it doesn't open up. Water park doesn't open up until after rush hour, and of course people aren't going to earlier than stay there through the day. So we've not had any issues. Like I said,
Can you use the microphone? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Apologize. We've not had any issues with parking in Gurnee or any of the other locations. And like I said, when people are visiting the lodge, do not conflict with whatever we all consider, rush hour traffic and peak traffic.
And by definition, that should be the case because they're only issuing the passes based on the rooms that aren't occupied. So
Yeah, you're right, you're absolutely right. So we're not exceeding what we've already planned for
Exactly.
based on the amount of the lodge. And actually the lodge, just so even though we average 4.4, the actual occupancy of the lodge is much higher because, for instance, the Grizzly Suite can sleep over 10 people. So the 4.4 is well below maximum occupancy of which we got the original zoning to begin with. So we're well under that from a demand standpoint.
Okay.
Okay, and then how many days, I guess, before, like, I mean, how are you estimating your occupancy ahead of time? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how accurate is that? I mean, if you're basing it off of...
It's really dynamic. It's almost like dynamic pricing. So they look basically a week in advance because you want to be very careful that you don't exceed. And so it's basically a week in advance. So like this week, actually Monday, they were starting to look for the weekends because a lot of people like to do them on the weekends. So if I was the manager of Emilio, if I was at Gurnee, I'd say, okay, it looks like I'm going to have 10 to 15 rooms, but let's do this. You know what? I'm going to release 10 of the rooms. I'm going to do 10 now with the 4.4. Let's hold the 5. And so it's really up to the manager, but we monitor it. It's all electronic. So back at the corporate office, we're monitoring all that. But again, you'll never exceed the capacity because, like I said, at 4.4, that still doesn't reach the capacity of the total lodge, which is much higher than that.
So you release tickets 1 week in advance?
Yeah, and sometimes it's that day.
I see.
That's day. So if it's a real busy time, so obviously we want to sell the rooms. So I know in some cases, like if it was today, they would maybe release for Friday, if they saw that there was a trend. And these managers, they know what the trends are in the area and school days and holidays and weather and that. So there's a little bit of art and science in it, but again, you never exceed that capacity because the 4.4 is well below their total.
And if I understood the presentation properly, everyone in the pool area has an RIFD.
Yep.
Is that the right term?
Yep.
So real time how many people are in that area. So there's real time monitoring in terms of meeting the fire code for maximum occupancy and that kind of
Yes.
stuff. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions before I open the floor to the public? Okay. I'm going to open the floor to the public at this point in time. If you have a question, please direct your question to us, and then after I've heard all the questions, we'll close the floor and address the questions the best we can. So if you can just state your name and address for the record.
Terry Hall, I'm a Gurnee resident, and I have a comment. I am the closest neighbor there is to Great Wolf Lodge. I and my 3 neighbors face them directly across the ComEd right-of-way. We have found them to be very good neighbors, very responsive. We had some issues when they were going in and making their last changes. And as soon as we were able to connect with the leadership over there, they came over and met with us, and they were totally responsive to our concerns, solved our problem. They weren't able to put in permanent solution until this spring, so they created a temporary solution. And during the year, as things went along, I had contact with them a couple of times. And they were wonderful neighbors. And that's in contrast to the previous business that was at the location. I had dealings with them from the time it was being built forward, and it was a completely different experience dealing with that company. We've been very impressed with this company. There's been no impact on the traffic in our neighborhood, and we believe that they would be totally responsible about handling anything that did come up. Listening to the presentation that Mr. Jacobson gave, it sounds like they've really thought this through already, but if anything came up, we're totally confident they could deal with it. And then if I put on my CPA hat for a moment, the only thing that strikes me odd is why would you lock yourself into a minimum required increase in the price based on CPI? It seems to me that's a business decision that should be dealt with as you go along, but that's obviously up to you. Nice. So, do you have any questions for me?
No. Thank you. It's not often we have somebody take the time to say positive things. So thank you very much.
I was really blown away with the owner, Mr. Emilio Fabico, came over to my house himself, brought people with him, I brought other people from my association, and he was completely engaged with figuring out what the problem was and finding a solution and following up with me on several occasions to update me on progress, and I just couldn't be happier. So, when I got the notice, I real quick visited my neighbors. I didn't get all the signatures, but, and I gave a copy to Tracy, that we are happy to have Great Wolf Lodge as a neighbor. We hope they're there for a long time to come, and we hope that you approve their request.
Thank you very much for taking the time. I'm going to close the floor to the public. Any other questions or comments from members of the Planning and Zoning Board? If not, is somebody ready to advance a motion? Yes, Mr. Nordentoff.
Yes, I move that we forward a favorable recommendation for the new special use permit modification. To also be included the list of 7 restrictions or conditions that were stated within the presentation that are also printed within our packets. They've been incorporated into the motion as well. I don't know that I need to read them all out again.
That's fine. That's fine.
Seeing that it does meet all the standards for special use.
Great. We have a motion. We have a second. Second by Ms. Any discussion on the motion? Can we have roll call, please?
Bao. Nordentoff.
Aye.
Haystack.
Aye.
And Sula.
Aye, motion carries. As you know, the process, we recommend to the village board, the village clerk will let you know when the village board is going to hear it, but wishing you continued success with the project. I've heard nothing but good stuff about it, so.
You know what's very interesting, I'm going to make sure that they know. I did not know Amelia's been doing that, and I think I'm going to make sure that his boss knows that he's been, that's good to hear, very good to hear. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, you too. Okay, the next item on the agenda is another public hearing. This one is for, or by Graham Enterprises, Inc., is seeking the following for an approximately 1 acre parcel located at 3419 Grand Avenue.
Yep.
Thank
So,
you.
as,
What's the matter?
Just, what did you do with his flash drive?
oh, I have it.
Just, I'm sorry. We have this flash drive, we're just trying to get it back to him. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, all the company's secrets are on. Okay, thank you again.
All right.
Okay, go ahead, Clara.
Graham Enterprise, Inc. is seeking the following for an approximately 1 acre parcel located at 3419 Grand Avenue. Variances to allow a reduction in the separation requirement for curb cuts to less than 50 feet apart, the encroachment into the 25-foot parking setback to the north, and the encroachment into the 8-foot parking setback to the east, and special use permits to allow the development and operation of a car wash, a drive-through facility without a bailout lane, stacking bay that is less than 9 feet in width, canopy lighting levels over 24.99 foot candles but less than 50 foot candles, ground sign that exceeds the allowable 10-foot height, a ground sign that is not a monument-style sign, 3 8-foot tall information boards, a reduction in the east landscaping buffer requirement, and that's the number of plant materials, and a reduction in the pay lane stacking requirement. The subject property is zoned EGG, East Grand Gateway District. As with all variance and special use permits, the Planning and Zoning Board will make a recommendation based upon the variance and special use permit standards, which will be forwarded to the Village Board for their determination. The petitioner is in attendance to represent the request and answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, at this time, I would request that anybody from the petitioner or members of the general public that intend to give testimony, ask questions, make comments, et cetera, please stand and be sworn in by the village attorney.
If you haven't done it already, please stand.
It's a different hearing now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Okay. All right, is there anything that you'd care to add to what Clara just summarized? Oh, yeah, we need a microphone. Sorry.
She has a presentation.
Okay.
There's something that I would like to add. I did want to go over our presentation just to give you kind of an introduction as to what is being planned for the site and why we're asking for the variances and special uses that we are requesting. So currently...
We need your name and address for the record, please.
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Carissa Wendt, and I'm at 152 South Hale in Palatine. I work for WT Group. We're the architects for Graham Enterprise and this project. And so I'm here speaking on Graham Enterprise and Mr. Matt Graham's behalf. Currently, the Grahams own the property. You can see all the lots along Grand Avenue here, and then this square lot below. And they have an existing fuel site there. It is a convenience store, fuel site, and a car wash. They have 3 entrances to their site off of Grand Avenue and 2 off of Lawrence. The reason for the remodel is they like doing their business here and being in Gurnee, but the size of this station is just, at this point, somewhat defunct. To compete with what modern customers want at a car wash or a convenience store, they simply just do not have the room for all of those uses at this site. It's very narrow in the north-south direction, which to put a modern canopy there for fueling would not allow for a building and safe traffic flow. So what they've chosen to do here is to propose a car wash only on this site. So currently they have a special use for the C-Store gas station car wash that they currently have. Today we're requesting a special use just for a car wash, a new car wash. This car wash is going to be not only functionally better, but much more aesthetically better for the city of Gurnee as well. This will be a tunnel car wash. It's modern, it washes better, it has free vacuums outside for the public. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. And it will, the building is of high quality materials and an interesting design, showing the new brand for Trio and their car washes going forward. The site, we are closing the entrances off of Grand Avenue. Part of that land in the right-of-way is going to be dedicated to the state of Illinois, the part closer to the intersection. So we're maintaining the 2 entrances on Lawrence. That third entrance to the south is actually a public alley. So that already exists. Did you want me to go over each of the special use and variances one by one? I didn't know if you had a special order you wanted me to go in or follow the agenda.
If there's something you want to add to what Clara stated before.
I think she needs to go over them for the public. I mean,
Okay.
otherwise.
All right.
Okay, I just didn't know if you had a special order you wanted me to go in. I'm going to follow the agenda.
If you want to go through the printed order, that's just fine.
Okay. So the first variance that's being requested is for a reduction in the separation requirement for curb cuts to less than 50 feet apart. The 2 curb cuts along Lawrence Avenue are being requested really to remain. We're changing the size of them, including reducing the size of them. We're going from 5 curb cuts on this site to 2. The reason we would like to maintain those curb cuts is really just for the flow of traffic in and out of the site, so that it's primarily an entrance towards the top and then the exit below. This way, there's just less crossover between traffic. People that are exiting the car wash can safely exit the site. They don't have to worry about people pulling in or any potential stacking or use at the vacuums.
Excuse me, but aren't there really 3?
The one on the bottom is an alley.
So that's not considered a curb cut?
So that's
Okay.
not considered an access on our site. But we are connecting to the alley really for emergency bypass is really what it would be for.
So is the alley a right-of-way? Yes. Okay, so public right-of-way? Okay.
Okay. The encroachment, if we go to number 2 and 3, the encroachment into the 25-foot setback and the 8-foot parking setback, those are on the north and on the east. What we have on the north is currently on the north and east, I should say. There's no landscape there whatsoever. So this would be an improvement. We still are dealing with a site that is very narrow, north to south. So we are asking for the variance in order to fit the vacuum stalls there. So the landscape is being improved significantly along both of those corridors. So on the north, you can see the amount of landscaping at the top there. And then on the east, it's really the variances for that little island there separating people coming onto the site and people leaving the car wash tunnel. So at that point, it's very narrow, but there is landscape in that piece. We are keeping this, we would like to keep this aisle open between the vacuum and stacking area and the exit to the car wash in case somebody leaves the car wash and they do want to use the vacuums. So that is where that access is being requested. This way, no one has to leave the site onto Lawrence, make a U-turn back on the site. We're trying to eliminate that. Okay. As for special uses, development and operation of a car wash, we're currently doing that right now, and we would like to continue to do that. A drive-through facility without a bailout lane. This is not an unmanned car wash. So if you look at the building, which is the white box in the middle, all the way to the northwest corner is where the attendant is working. So there's at least one attendant in there that can see what is happening on the site, but there will be additional people working as well. If somebody needs to get through, there's 3 pay lanes right now. The third one up at the top is really just a speed pass lane. So that's going to be open the majority of the time. So if somebody needs to get through, they can get through there. The attendant can easily set them through. There's also, I'm going to kind of walk up towards the screen and point a little bit. There's also an electronic gate right here to allow anyone that's in that lane that's already paid or gone through the pay canopy to be able to exit the site without having to go through the tunnel. And once again, that electronic gate is manned by whoever is working the car wash. So that's acting as the bailout lane. So the stacking lanes are required to be 9 feet in width. We actually have enough room for 10 feet in width. We narrow them only at the pay points to 8 feet. The reason for this is to slow down the traffic. We find that there's less people hitting things, actually, if you force them to slow down before they go through that. And that's customers, snow plows, et cetera. And they need to be close to the kiosk, actually, to punch in what type of wash they want. So we have more than 9 feet wide for the entire site, really. It's just at that pay point, we prefer to funnel them to 8 feet so that we have less damage to the site and they're close enough to reach those kiosks. We found that in practice, that works best for us. Canopy lighting. At the canopy, we are at about 40-foot candles right in the center of that canopy. It does not spill beyond the property lines. We meet the requirements for your photometrics for the rest of the site. It's really just at the canopy that we have it a little brighter. The reason for that is it's a task-oriented site. We want people to get through there with their cars carefully, and we want them to be able to see, but we also want them to be able to use the machines to purchase their car wash with decent visibility. So we are asking for that special use. Okay, on to signage. Let's go, let's look at the aesthetics of the building. We have a few elevations. This is the building as a whole. There's signage on the building. You can see the ground sign at the corner of the site closest to you. That's the northeast site. And then we have the vacuums along Grand Avenue here. You can see the pay kiosk off to the right of that photo. So they would come onto the site here through that pay kiosk. You can go to the next slide, please. That's sort of your approach view from the car, same approach. And that's the sign that I'm going to be talking about next. So we can keep it there if you would like. The ground sign exceeds the allowable 10-foot height. We're asking for an 18-foot sign because we have the vacuums and cars parked using the vacuums in that area. We would like the sign to be visible so that motorists can see it as they're approaching the site. And with the use of the site, if it was a low monument sign, it would be hidden most of the time. Once again, we don't have the setback of the parking or vacuum stalls that we would like due to the narrow site size. So therefore, the sign is sort of in line with those parking spaces. It is not a monument style sign because of the height that we were trying to achieve. We did not want to fill in that whole base monument style. We thought it looked too bulky, too heavy. So we opened up the center of that sign just to lighten it up aesthetically. But we still brought all that stonework to the ground so that aesthetically it has that same appeal as a monument sign. We have 3 information signs. I'll let you, if you can go to the next slide. This is if we're standing at the northwest corner, looking at the site and towards the car wash entrance. Next slide, please. And this is at the entrance. So looking from the southwest corner. And then this is looking from the southeast corner of the exit. Next slide, please. The signage plan, I'm not going to go over the plan, but if we need to go back to it, we can. If we go to the next slide, you can see the elevations. One more, I'm sorry. Okay, we're talking about the 3 signs up at the top that are labeled as number 3. Okay. Those are signs that we're requesting on our site that are on the interior of the site. They're near the entrance to the car wash, set back from the road. You can go one more. So there it is. Thank you so much. With a use like a car wash, these are sort of the equivalent of the signs that we would have in our store, let's say. But because all of our customers are in their cars, any way for us to communicate with them needs to be on the site where they can see it in their cars. The 3 signs that we're asking for don't have a specific slot in your code, so therefore it's a special use, but they're non-illuminated. They are only able to be seen by cars going into the car wash. Because of the heavy landscaping and the distance from Grand Avenue, these are not signs that are going to be visible to motorists or distracting to motorists. It's really on-site signage for our customers only. So this is a way for us to communicate specials, packages, et cetera, that are available to our customers. Those are 8 feet tall, and once again, they're not illuminated at all.
And where are they going to be?
If you can go back to the signage plan. So people are going to come through the pay kiosk, and they're on that little island right there. So that's where people will see them as they're entering the car wash. So you can see there's a considerable landscape island, trees, other shrubs, and then trees again along Grand Avenue. So this is, once again, signage for our on-site customers, not visible to the general public or motorists using Grand Avenue. Okay. The next special use is a reduction in the east landscaping buffer requirement. I had mentioned that a little bit earlier, but you can see all the way to the east, that little island between the entering traffic and people exiting the car wash. There's a little sliver of landscape right there. And that just doesn't meet the code's current requirement for how thick that needs to be. And that's just due to the site constraints that we have with site circulation. The last one is a reduction in the pay lane stacking requirement. Our interpretation of the code was that only 5 stacking spaces were needed per bay. But I think that Staff wants to see 5 per pay point. So as you can see on this plan, there is room for 15 cars to stack before going into that car wash. They're not lined up at each pay point because that last one is a speed pass. And so people are not going to be waiting at that. But there's definitely enough for us to have at least 15 cars. I think even more than 15 are showed there to get into that car wash. So I think that we've satisfied that. I don't think we're asking for a reduction in the stacking. And I think that that is it for everything that's addressed under this section of the public hearing.
Okay. Questions from members of the Planning and Zoning Board? Josh?
Did we review this property a few years ago? And what happened?
I'm sorry, what? I can't hear you.
Sorry, Tracy. Did we review this property a few years ago and discuss very similar
There was, I think,
changes?
an informal, maybe.
Oh, was it informal?
Yeah.
Was
There
it
was
this
no,
property, or was it across the street?
no, I think it was this property. I think maybe informally, or,
I think it,
At
Yeah.
most?
It-
Yeah.
the owner might know. You don't remember? Okay, well, maybe not then.
We've had other car washes.
We had
The
a
one on
discussion.
Milwaukee and the one off of Delaney.
We had an informal discussion about a car wash along Grand Avenue. I just don't remember if it was this site or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I just remember
Yeah, okay.
hearing very similar requests,
Yeah,
and
but-
I wanted to know if we.
But it was
reviewed this
informal, Josh, and none of it.
Got it.
Okay. So, any concerns about this? Go ahead, Brian.
I have a question concerning the north curb cut. So that one's 24 feet wide, the southerly's 12. So obviously, you're anticipating the north to have two-way traffic flow? Because I'm trying to figure out, somebody pulls in, they go through the car wash, they see a sign before they actually go through the car wash saying, visit our vacuum area. You go through, then you'd make a left to go to the vacuum area, and then you're in there, and then you need to get yourself back out? I mean, is that
So
what
we
you're
left that as,
anticipating?
we left that section as two-way traffic because this way there's some options. The stacking that we're showing there right now is it's a rarity to have that many
Right, yeah,
cars
no,
there. So we're showing it for the benefit of you to see what's there. So we would like people to be able to use the vacuums, even if they don't want a car wash, and be able to exit the site. On the days where we are busy, that's where we have more staff, and there's people out there directing or coning off certain areas to direct people. But that might happen 15 days out of the year. Most of the time, someone would be able to back up and leave, and so they're not, forced to go through the car wash.
Okay.
When needed, we can force them to go through that bypass lane and go around.
All right.
I think I'll start with the primary freestanding sign topic. Probably my greatest concern is your request for the 18 feet, because if I interpret this correctly, the reason that we have to go and deviate from our standards is because you as a petitioner are placing something in the way that is forcing us to have to raise it. So there's not anything inherently problematic with the site itself from a topography standpoint or anything else that would require it to be 18 feet tall. There have been other redevelopments along this same stretch of Grand Avenue that have been able to, in fact, embrace the spirit of the East Grand code as well as the new signage component of the zoning code that have worked toward reducing the scope and the scale and the size and the mass of our signs throughout the village, not just in the East Grand corridor. So there seems to be a bit of a self-imposed problem here. Now, granted, I I know you want to have vacuums there and so forth. I appreciate the business that you want to generate from that, even though it's free. But the fact is that now we have to swallow hard and go 8 feet taller than what is the standard. And so I have a little problem with that. And I don't think people are going to zip by this thing and completely miss the fact that it's a car wash if it's not 18 feet, because it says car wash on 3 of the 4 elevations, ranging anywhere from approximately 16 to as many as 20 feet up off the ground, depending on which way you're coming from. So I just have to ask if we really have to go 18 feet. That's just my first comment, thanks.
Okay, go ahead. You want to cover all your points, Dave?
No, we'll just tackle this one first.
So we would like a taller sign, only, I mean, that's how we market our business, is visibility. And I feel that we do have a hardship with the depth of the site being narrow is what it is, and the particular use that we have with the cars being in front, that a taller sign would be beneficial to us.
I think the issue that I'm hearing from Dave is, though, that it's kind of a self-inflicted issue in that a car wash isn't allowed by right, it's a special use permit. And you keep saying the site's too narrow, and I have to agree with you 1,000%, the site is too narrow. I see a whole host of logistical issues here. I mean, in the materials that we have, it says that as many as 100 cars per hour could be going through this place on a busy day. And I look at simple things like where the vacuums are. Once you get in there, those 4 or 5 spaces to the farthest west, they're going to be almost impossible to get out of during busy times. And even with Bill Greaves' suggestion of maybe making them diagonal, I think that even makes it worse. But so there's logistical issues with the traffic pattern there. And then I look at, as you're coming out of the tunnel, if you want to go and use the vacuum cleaners, you're going to have to make a very, very quick left-hand turn, and you're going to have to cross over the people that are trying to get to the pay lanes, and then get all the way over to the vacuums, and then, repeating myself, maneuver your way back out. I just don't see it as a good plan in general.
The scenario that you're describing would be at a very rare occasion that there would be that many cars backed up that far. So in that case, that is when staff is going to need to cone off, let's say, that access around so that people just have to exit the site. So the staff is prepared to handle days where logistically it's just not a good idea and they don't want traffic crossing. So, and that would also include those extra vacuum stalls all the way to the end. If they had to be coned off on those special days, then they would just need to be coned off. But I think on the majority of days out of the year, we want to be able to have them accessible. And they should be. Things go through this car wash pretty quickly. I don't know that if we can do 100 cars per hour, doesn't mean that we ever do 100 cars per hour. I think that that would be awesome from a business standpoint if we could. But that's, I think, you know, we have a plan for worst case scenario, but our design also wants to handle the rest of the year. And I think that this all flows very well on the site, and it'll work very well. Graham Enterprise is extremely concerned about things maneuvering well and things going well on their site. If it's a horrible experience for customers to get through, or they're having accidents or any other kind of damage to the site, they're just not going to propose it. You know, they've been doing this long enough, and it is very important to them. I think that the signage is, you know, we are trying to squish it in on that corner. So that is one issue. But site flow, I think, works very well. And I agree with you. The angled parking didn't really help it. We did try and take a look at that.
It makes it harder in my mind. But and as far as the informational board signs, I'm failing to understand the useful purpose. I mean, to me, having information about your packages and everything is something that you want to have at the pay stations. I mean, my experience in going through automated car washes is once you pay, you round the curve and you listen to the directions that the guy is telling you to get your car between the rails. You don't have time to read signs. So I don't see a practical need for those signs at that particular location.
I think we're moving them out so we don't have too much information at the kiosk. We want people to pay through the kiosk and keep moving. So, yeah, if there's not time to read the signs, I understand that, but there could be other things, specials, et cetera, or if we want to show them our website so they could go online and order packages. Those are options that they would be able to see beyond the pay point.
Okay. Josh?
Just general comments. I really appreciate the idea to update this site, first of all. I've been to the site, I've shopped at the site, I've done a car wash there, so thank you. Just a general statement, I really do. However, from a planning and zoning, just a general statement. First, I agree with some of the comments around the 10-foot, the sign that exceeds 10 foot. Usually we see a foot or two in excess. It's not an 80% variance, right? That's the one I have the most, I struggle with the most personally. In general, I've been doing this just a few years. I'm probably the newest member of these three. I've never seen a site with this many proposed variances that need this much attention. And I sort of just think that when this was put together, that when you start getting into the, just 14 or 15 different sort of ways in which you're requesting variances to the guidelines that we have as a community, that probably should have raised some red flags as a proposal. Because it's just so many variances to what we have put in place as a community. I'm really struggling with this whole proposal with the quantity of just variances and exceptions and differences into these standards that we've spent a lot of time putting in place for Gurnee. So that I just wanted to share that with you, the community, and the board. Yeah.
Thanks, Josh. Any other questions before I open the floor to the public? Dave? Okay, I'm gonna open the floor to the public at this point in time. Is there anybody from the public that would care to ask a question or make a comment? And sure, and if you could share the microphone, please.
Thank you. My name is Russ Schneider. I live on Lawrence Avenue in Gurnee. I want to say I appreciate your engineering department. I've known Dave Ziegler for many years, and you're totally transparent here, and I appreciate that a lot, being a neighboring landowner and a neighbor. So I get this, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Holy cow! There's a lot asked here, so I start Googling. I'm like, okay, maybe Graham Enterprises does this quite a bit. Let's see. Well, they do. They go in and they ask for all kinds of frickin' variances. Like, what? And you are not the only board. Each one of you's got to decide on these little things. Like what? So I'm like, this is too confusing. I read all the minutes and the dialogue, and like these people are asking the same questions you ask about these other things. Like, wow, that's a lot. I can't do this. So then I go, okay, let's look at what is our zoning. So I actually have a big thing of zoning stuff. It goes way back, right? And that's been going on. So what I saw, like in 2001, 2003, all the way up to last February, I saw people I knew in the community, volunteers like you, who showed up and you did these zoning things, and they spent hours and hours and hours trying to develop this plan. And then they have drafts, and they have more community meetings, more community input, and then more volunteer hours, many hours, meeting with Tracy. I mean, this has went on a long time. People really thoughtfully put on these ideas what the hell they wanted their zoning, right? So then in comes a business wants to do what they want to do, and this is different. Like, why don't they come in and ask for what the zoning is? I don't get it. I don't understand it. So they didn't mention a couple of things, like this Lawrence Avenue. That's a pretty busy street. All the school districts send their buses down it, all of them. And now we got 2 cuts on Lawrence and 3 on Grand, but now we only have 2 on Lawrence. And this did come up before, 2003. It was proposed to vacate Briar Avenue, to extend the car wash all the way over to Briar Avenue, and circle around the back, and yeah, it was a lot. So, I don't know, I'm just kind of wondering, you know, there's a wetland. I didn't even hear mention of a wetland. You know, there's wetland there, and it is going onto the wetland, and my property has a little bit of wetland on it. I'm concerned about it because, I mean, we have a nice piece of property. We drain into a nice natural swale. I mean, this is my family farm. I lived there all my life. So I don't know how this is going to impact my property, being that they're going to be building and adding structures on the wetland. And I didn't hear a word about that. So, did you hear anything? So, and, you know, I don't know anything about this, all this stuff like setbacks, bailouts, stacking, all this sign stuff. But when I did read the minutes from other municipalities, it's the same crap. Well, so many feet, it's this many feet. Come on, these people worked hard developing these zoning rules. I think we ought to think about keeping them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay.
I just can't come to a meeting and not make a comment. So, having just not seen this before, but I do kind of know that area, the only 2 things that struck me right off listening to the presentation were taking all of the traffic that currently enters from Grand Avenue, which is a nice, busy commercial street, and make all of them go around the corner onto Lawrence, which is, I mean, you say school buses and everything go down there, but to my thinking, that's more of a minor street, more of a residential street. So they want to make all of the traffic go around the corner onto Lawrence instead of use Grand. And the other thing was the 18-foot sign. I mean, I don't see any reason why the sign needs to be that high. If they're talking about they want it above all the vacuum cleaners in the cars, well, cars aren't 18 feet high. Cars are, what, usually 4, 5, 6 feet high. Maybe a SUV's a little bigger. And the vacuum pumps are whatever size they choose to make them. And the other signage in that area of Grand Avenue, I don't think there are very many signs that stick up that high. So I don't see any reason why this one should be so much taller than the others. So those are just the things I noticed from listening.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm going to close the floor to the public, and then we'll address the comments. Okay. Other wetlands involved, Dave?
There is an isolated wetland on the site. It's been delineated and it's shown on the engineering plans. There's no zoning relief that's required to develop in the wetland. They would have to go through the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission regulated process to impact the wetland. Village's engineering department would work with the developer and to make sure that the drainage patterns are maintained and that any remaining wetlands and the wetland hydrology is maintained. So it's not really a zoning purview, but it is something that engineering will have to take a look at as the final engineering plans are developed.
It'd be a building permit issue.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Okay. Did I miss any other question? That was a question.
Don't believe so.
Okay. All right.
If I can,
Sure.
the comment about the traffic entering off of Lawrence versus off of Grand Avenue, from a traffic engineering perspective, it's better to have the local driveways come off the side streets rather than directly off of Grand Avenue. Having multiple direct access points on Grand Avenue is contrary to safe traffic movement along Grand Avenue. So it's better to have those access points consolidated into a few locations versus having them every 100 feet all the way up and down Grand Avenue. So anytime we have an opportunity to see curb cuts removed off of Grand Avenue, we have in our zoning code, we incentivize having curb cuts removed off of Grand Avenue through cross-access. So we always try to take advantage of those whenever we can.
And in this particular use and the way their traffic pattern has to flow really doesn't, having access to Grand Avenue really doesn't help them at all.
Correct.
Okay. Because there really has to be a single point of access for this type of an operation. What strikes me about this is that, granted, a car wash is there already, but the car wash is really kind of an ancillary use right now.
Correct.
It's not the primary focus. And I've seen other car washes, and on days where the weather's been nice for a few days after the weather's been really, really rotten for several days, there's a lot of cars that stack up on that. And I'm very, very concerned that the stacking that's identified here isn't going to be enough, and you're going to run the risk that you're going to have people waiting on that little bit of Lawrence and even off of Grand, and people that are going westbound on Grand trying to get in there aren't going to be able to get in there. I think it's just too much for this site. I really, really do. Any other people see it that way?
I'll just echo your point. I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian or Josh?
Yeah, look, same here. I agree. I really do get it's a tough site, and that's what we heard, and I'm sympathetic. Again, I really like the site. I shop there, I go there, and we listen very closely. For me, I listen very closely, and I hear what you said, and you did the best you could with the parameters and the requirements of the car wash. It just seems not to fit in with what we're trying to use our land for in the community based on these standards that we've had in multiple elements of setbacks and signs and uses, and it just seems like it generally doesn't work. And I just wanted to reiterate, I have the empathy. I understand what you were trying to do, but I just, based on, 15 different variations and exceptions and sort of, you're asking for sort of, relief on 15 different items. It's a lot to ask.
The only point I would make is you cannot assume that, there are rules of the road. So, I mean, you should not consider that standing traffic would occur on Grand Avenue. If they can't pull in there, they cannot legally stop on Grand Avenue. And we have many, there are other car washes. I know there's one on Washington Street, just north of that. And so in any event, just be cautious about making any assumptions that there would be standing traffic on Grand Avenue, because the law would not permit that. And the board should, you have to consider that.
Well, by the same token, part of our consideration has to do with health and safety, right? And if we're creating a potential situation which could require law enforcement to get involved.
No, you have to look at their site,
Yeah,
but
okay.
now you're going beyond the site.
Okay.
And that's what you have to be cautious about, because that is not part of their petition. And like I said,
Okay.
when we start talking about traffic patterns on a public right-of-way,
Okay.
I don't think that, you have to be mindful that that would be against the law for people to stop there, and that should not necessarily affect your view of the site planning.
Okay, and I guess, just to clarify where my comment was coming from, it was a cause and effect type thing, that I don't believe that this site plan is capable of handling up to 100 cars per hour. And if it's not capable of handling it, there's going to be spillover. And I don't know where that spillover is going to go. So. I'm struggling how to parse this to,
Well, I mean, there are some use aspects to this, and you could separate out some of the requests.
okay.
I mean, as it's been pointed out, the site is currently used as a gas station / car wash, so,
Mhm.
that's something the board could consider.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I guess, so we have to we need to tackle them all individually.
Or in groups, I mean, if you say, well, it would depend, it's possible that you'd have to do it individually, or if there is some logical grouping to the request. It seems to me that if there's some specific objections to signage, maybe that could be grouped together after discussion.
I think rather than try to figure out how to group things, I think we should just deal with them one by one.
You can do that too.
I think, because otherwise we're going to spend more time trying to figure out how to group things together.
That's a good point.
One proposal
Yes.
is to group them by approval standards for the variations. So there's 3 variations. And then we
But
can
there's
look
three,
at
there's 3 distinct different variations, so.
Okay.
So I think we need to opine on them one at a time.
Okay.
Okay. Before we start doing that, Brian, is there anything else you wanted to add? No. Okay. All right, let's deal with the public hearing variances first. Request for the reduction in the separation requirement for curb cuts to less than 50 feet apart. And it's specifically along Lawrence, right? Any discussion on that one? Yes, Dave?
I'm prepared to advance a motion on that one.
Okay.
I move that we forward a favorable recommendation for the reduction separation requirement for curb cuts to less than 50 feet apart.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Second by Mr. Pasak. Discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Aye.
Pasak.
Aye.
And Sula.
Aye, that motion carries. To allow the reduction in the separation for the curb cuts. The next one is the encroachment into the 25-foot parking setback to the north. And it'd be specifically related to the vacuum stations, correct?
Claire, can you clarify that? Maybe if you could show that on one of the diagrams.
It's these.
The north setback, yeah, is the one that is in front of the
Here.
parking lot
Yeah,
there.
it's all the vacuum stations, correct?
Yes.
In front of
Correct.
that, correct.
Okay.
So it's going from 25 feet, what's the proposed setback then? 6.5?
Yes, I think.
And
What is that?
Oh, it's kind of diagonal, 6.5 and.
Yeah, and I think 13 and
To the east portion. No, that'd be the west portion, right?
Yeah, that'd be the west portion.
so it jets up to, there's like a sidewalk area up there that's included in their property.
So where the cursor is right now is proposed to be 6.5 feet,
And then up there by, yeah, up there is where it's 13, if that makes
Up
sense.
where?
Then we're
There?
Can you see it on there?
Is it just that tiny little area?
Yeah, there's a,
Oh, it looks like the other way.
Yeah, it does.
there's a red line that you can kind of see on there that juts up kind of close to halfway between the parking, the vacuum stations there.
Really see it.
Does the setback include the sidewalk? Is that part of that?
No. portion of the sidewalk does include their property.
The setback is measured from the back of the right-of-way.
Correct.
Right. The north property line isn't continuous as it goes along here, it juts up. Along that area. So that's why we have a discontinuous. One of the asks that we had of the developer is that they do dedicate this little strip of right of way where the sidewalk is going to fall to IDOT for future use.
Okay. Any other questions on that? If not, a motion would be in order.
Chairman,
Yes?
I move we forward a favorable recommendation for the reduction of setback from the required 25 feet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Aye.
Paysack.
Aye.
And Sula.
Nay. Motion does carry, though. Because you said aye, right, Josh?
I did.
Okay. Third one is the encroachment in the 8-foot parking setback to the east. So where is that? So the little island between
Yes.
the two curb cuts?
Yep.
So they're meeting that on the north end of that property line?
This complies up here, this complies down here, it's just this thickness in that center island.
So it's not parking per se, it's really driveway?
It's driveway, yes.
Okay,
That's considered parking.
okay,
I mean, the
Okay.
code
Yeah.
Okay.
considers it.
because I was looking for parking spaces, okay. Any questions or comments on that one? Dave?
I move we forward a favorable recommendation for the reduction of the parking requirement on the east side to less than 8 feet.
Second.
A second by Mr. Pasak. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Aye.
Paysack.
Aye.
And Sula.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, now we delve into the special use permits. The first one is the development and operation of a car wash. There's a car wash there already, so, okay, go ahead, Dave.
I move we forward a favorable recommendation for special use permit for the development and operation of a car wash at this site.
I'll second.
Was that you, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Aye.
Paysack.
Aye.
And Sula.
Aye, motion carries. The next one is a drive-through facility without a bailout lane. And we heard that the proposed fix for that is the use of the electronic gate, which is unclear to me how, I understand how that it's manned, but I don't understand how it's actually visible from the people that would be manning it. Yes?
The bailout lane, isn't that on the gate that opens after they pay?
It's on the gate that opens after they pay, and then ultimately they would be going down the alley.
Okay.
Okay.
So they have a solution. I guess what was your problem with that one?
I'm not sure where the operator is that controls the gate.
I see.
I mean,
Yeah.
perhaps it's through, camera monitoring or something.
Okay.
I mean, I know they're facing north from, I think, where they're going to be manned, and the
Okay.
gate's, around the corner from them, but
Okay.
My look at this is that we do have a solution. I don't know that necessarily fits into what we consider to be our prototypical bailout lane configuration for other things we've done with, drive-through, restaurants and banks and that sort of thing. But there is a solution.
Okay.
And given that, I will forward a favorable, I move that we forward a favorable recommendation for the establishment of a drive-through facility without the traditional bailout lane.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bao. Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Aye.
Paysack.
Aye.
And Sula.
Aye. Next one is the stacking bay that is less than 9 feet in width, but according to testimony, it was only at the point where the actual pay stations are. Yes.
I'm moving forward a favorable recommendation for the special use permit for a stacking bay that is less than 9 feet in width.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Mr. Bao. Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Aye.
Paysack.
Aye.
And Sula.
Aye, motion carries. Next one is lighting. Canopy lighting levels over 24.99 foot candles, but less than 50 foot candles. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm moving forward a favorable recommendation to establish a special use permit to allow canopy lighting levels over 24.99 foot candles, but less than 50 foot candles.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Aye.
Paysack.
Aye.
Sula.
Aye. Next one is a ground sign that exceeds the allowable 10-foot height. And that's related to the corner one, correct? That's going to be, they're asking for it to be 18 feet tall, right?
Correct, the
Okay. Just want to make sure we're
corner
talking about the
ground
right thing here. Okay. Dave?
I move we forward a favorable recommendation for a special use permit to allow a ground sign that exceeds the allowable 10-foot height.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Paysack. Roll call, please.
Bao.
Nay.
Nordentoff.
Nay.
Paysack.
Nay.
Sula.
Nay. Motion does not carry. Just bear with me, I lost my pen for a second. Okay, next one is that the said ground sign is not monumental style. Go ahead.
I move we forward a favorable recommendation for a special use permit for a ground sign that is not a monument style sign.
We have a second.
Second.
Was that you, Brian?
That's me.
Oh, Josh, okay. Second by Mr. Paysack. Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Nay.
Paysack.
Nay.
And Sula.
Nay, motion does not carry. Next one is the request for the 3 8-foot-tall informational board signs. Brian? I mean, not Brian, Dave?
Before,
Yeah.
just to clarify, these are the three in the back.
There are the 3 in the back.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yes, Dave.
Over here. I move we forward a favorable recommendation for a special use permit for 3 8-foot-tall informational board signs.
Do we have a second? Second by Brian. Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Nay.
Paysack.
Aye.
And Sula.
Nay. Motion, a tie means it's technically a no motion, right? It's not a nay, it's a,
It'll just be recorded as
not,
no recommendation.
no recommendation. That's, when I said no, I didn't mean nay, I meant,
Pass, right?
yeah, right, okay. Next one is the reduction in the east landscaping buffer requirement, the number of the plant materials.
Did we discuss that?
It was mentioned in the overall comments, but we didn't really discuss it. Is there a question you have about it?
Where is this one again?
It'd be along,
So
it'd be along
it's,
Lawrence Avenue, right?
Just around, yeah, on Lawrence Avenue.
Is it that island again between those two cuts?
It's the materials, so the number of materials, so let me.
Claire, how much material?
Yeah, I have that in the notes. So it's 2 ornamental trees and 12 large shrubs that are missing from that east section.
Just on the east side, all the way from Grand Avenue, all the way to where the alley is?
True before that, yes, yeah.
So what, sorry, numbers. How many do they require, and they're missing the 12? Sorry. Let's see the notes.
And, consideration as to what green space is available there, obviously.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't have the numbers that they're required on here, but I do have the 2, they're missing 2 ornamental trees and 12 large shrubs, and I have the plan, so I could probably figure that out if you need that information.
But obviously, if it's missing that many, it would just be an overcrowded situation.
Yeah.
Right.
And what's the point?
And you get into a
Yeah, so,
driver safety issue.
right,
They can't even see where they're going.
Sorry, I couldn't see it.
Right.
It's true.
Okay.
Okay. I move that we forward a favorable recommendation for a special use permit to allow the reduction in the east landscaping buffer requirement.
Second.
roll call, please.
Bao,
Aye.
Nornthoff,
Aye.
Paysack,
Aye.
and Tula.
Aye. All right. We didn't have a lot of discussion on this, the reduction in the pay lane stacking requirement. Can you just refresh us? How much is required and how much do they have?
So what's required by code is you have to have a minimum of 5 cars, a stacking space for a minimum of 5 cars in behind each of the pay lanes. And the concern with this one is that there are vacuum stations along the north of the site, and the access aisle, in order to come into those stalls and then back up and get out, interferes with the second and third pay stations. The only one that it doesn't interfere with is the first one closest to the building. So it's actually this plan that you're looking at. This is the gray area where they're saying that they have the stacking.
So code requires 15, right?
Requires
It's
5,
5 per lane.
5 per lane.
Which would be a total of 15.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Correct.
And what do they say that they have?
I think if you look at this plan, you'll see the concern is that, well, the gray shaded area is kind of showing, where's the one that shows the cars on there?
Yeah, there's the ones.
I mean, I'm looking at the plan, and there's a total of 10, if I could do my math right. 4, 6, 7. Right, okay.
So you can see that they're starting to shift the cars south here. Because it interferes with the backing out of these stations, and that's where they say they'll cone them off. But even here in this second lane, which is not the express lane, this is the express lane, the outer one, they're shifting the cars down so they can back out. Basically, you need, like, the only one, as Clara said, that really meets code is this first stacking lane here.
And this really is the heart of my concern about the whole project.
That's, when you said you guys didn't discuss it much, that's really kind of what the heart of all the discussion, I think, was about.
Yes, go
I
ahead,
mean,
Dave.
just clear from a practicality standpoint, the western half of those stations for vacuuming are pretty much put out of commission when they're swamped and busy. people are going to pull in there and they're going to get pinned in, and it's going to create some real points of conflict, because unless they're backing out and just going right straight through one of the pay lanes, either 2 or 3.
I mean,
But if they want to try to go out of the site, that creates even a much greater conflict of having to back up the other way. I think it's very problematic.
I mean, in my mind, the vacuum stations are going to be in perpetual conflict with the stacking lanes, no matter how busy the place is.
Well, certainly the western half of them will be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if there's virtually no stacking for the pay lanes, yeah, maybe, but if there's any kind of, but you also run the risk that if somebody has the express pass or whatever it's called, they're going to come zooming through there, and it's going to create a difficult situation.
Even under your example they're showing right there, if someone was to leave the vacuum lanes and want to leave the site, that last car in lane 1 is practically blocking the exit side of that curb cut, because you have the entering traffic coming in, the exiting traffic is right where that cursor is. There's a point of conflict already right there.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention anybody that's maybe considering coming out of the tunnel and wanting to go up to the vacuums as well.
Right.
And that would be on a busy day, which is really what they want. That's why they're in business. So, we're kind of asking for this problem because we want to see them be successful. We want to see them be busy. We want to see them pushing capacity. We wanted them to do well. Well, then we're going to see all these conflicts. I fear.
And on the busiest days are going to be also the days that the vacuums are going to be in most demand too, theoretically.
And perhaps even piles of snow and slush and
Right.
whatever else from the winter when we have that first 40-degree day and everybody wants their car washed.
Any other discussion?
No.
Oh, Dave?
I'll advance the motion.
Okay.
I move we forward a favorable recommendation for a special use permit to allow the reduction in the pay lane stacking requirement.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bow.
Aye.
Nordentoff.
Nay.
Paysack.
Nay.
And Sula.
Nay. Motion does not carry. Okay, that takes care of the public hearing items. Now we have 3 minor sign exceptions. Clara?
Yep. Graham Enterprise, Inc. is seeking minor sign exceptions to allow the following at 3419 Grand Avenue. Increase in the allowed area of a ground sign by up to 25%, the reduction in the ground sign setbacks to less than 10 feet, and an increase in the allowed secondary menu board sign height by 5.6%. The subject property is zoned EGG, East Grand Gateway District, and the Planning and Zoning Board has final decision-making authority on minor sign exception requests.
Okay, can we have a little discussion in terms of exactly what those are?
Yeah, so the first one is the allowed sign of the ground sign, so that's the size of that. So we had the special use for the height, and then they're also asking for an increased area.
And it's going from 50 square feet to 62.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion on this one?
What are the dimensions?
There's multiple
Yeah.
dimensions, there's multiple elements.
Approximation.
It's approximately 12 square feet larger than what's allowed.
Pardon?
12 square feet.
No, I understand that, but what's the size?
So if you saw the
What
picture.
element do
Yeah, I
you
saw it,
want?
I see the point up, but I just generally the blocked area.
There's too many elements of the sign. So there's the triangle element, there's the car wash free vacuum element, there's the reader board down below. There's, you know, I don't know what dimension you want.
And then the trio behind that is lit up, so that is counted towards the sign area.
This whole thing
Okay.
is a box
Because when I'm
sign.
looking at that, that looks, I mean, the whole structure is greater than, obviously,
Yes, but that's
62
not
square
how-
feet, so I just wanted, it might have been helpful to explain.
We don't, that's not how we calculate sign
No, I
area.
understand that, and that's why it's helpful to see that.
And we sent an unfavorable recommendation on the sign,
Height.
on the height, and as well as it being a pole instead of a monument, right?
Correct.
So the width of the structure is 10 feet, 8 inches, the height is 18 feet. The box sign underneath that says, well, on this one, it says customized for you is 2.5 feet by about 6 feet. The trio triangle is about 7 feet, 9 inches for each dimension of the triangle, the trio triangle. Does
So
that
it-
help?
So basically, Trace, it's really hard for me to see that from here, but is it basically if you drew a straight horizontal line from the bottom of the white triangle, it's everything above that, right?
This whole element here, this thing is all illuminated, so it gets counted, and then this. This is not illuminated, the orange behind there. It's a architectural element, so this is all illuminated, this all gets counted, this all gets counted.
So it's everything above the tunnel, if you will, between the two poles?
Yes,
Okay,
pretty much so. I mean, we
Okay.
don't count the brick base that's
okay,
behind, that doesn't have any signage.
okay. Yes, Dave?
I think from my perspective, if we had a problem with the height, we have a problem. It's scaled and correlated. So it would be hard to approve the scope or the size of the square footage when we've already put in doubt the height. So it's tied, it's scaled. So I would have a hard time
Okay.
supporting passing, allowing a greater square footage to be on this when we don't really know ultimately what the final result's going to be on the height.
I would agree with your opinion on that. So you want to advance a motion?
Sure. I move that we approve the increase in the allowed area of a ground sign by up to 25%.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second by Mr. Bao. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bao? Nortov?
Nay.
Pasak?
Nay.
And Sula?
Nay. Motion does not carry. Now, the next one is the reduction in the ground sign setbacks to less than 10 feet. Are we talking about the same ground sign?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the 10 feet is measured from along the right-of-way of Grand Avenue, or is
Yes,
it,
and Lawrence.
both of them?
Both of them
Yes.
are not met.
Correct.
How much less than 10 feet are they proposing?
6.5, 6 feet 5 inches from the north property line and 3 feet 2 inches from the east property line currently.
That's what they're asking for, or is that what they're?
That's what they're asking for.
So they want it
the
to be-
distance.
So it would be about an encroachment of about 4 feet for Grand Avenue and about 7 feet for Lawrence.
Correct.
So their rendering's not even close to.
No,
Correct.
it's not to scale.
It's not to scale.
The sign would be where the sidewalk is in this room.
Right.
Yes, Dave?
I move that we approve the reduction in the ground sign setbacks to less than 10 feet.
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have a discussion? Roll call, please.
Bao?
Nay.
Nortov?
Nay.
Pasak?
Nate.
And Sula.
Nay. Motion does not carry. Increase in the allowed secondary menu sign height of 5.6%. And where is this at?
So on the site plan, there's 2 menu board signs in between the 3 pay stations.
Okay.
And then after you go through that section, there is a secondary menu board sign, which code allows. However, it is limited to 6 feet in height, and they're requesting one that is 6 foot 4 inches in height.
Okay. So a 4-inch variance on 6 feet.
4-inch minor sign exception, yeah.
It says the allowed secondary, this makes it sound like it's one sign. Is it more than one?
It's one sign.
Claire, okay, so the menu boards are here, right?
Yes. And then you continue,
Is it around the corner?
I believe so, right?
Correct?
Yeah,
So it's one sign. for
correct.
that Secondary menu board.
Number 2 on
4
our,
inches in
number
height.
2 on our diagram for site location.
Yes,
So it's just that one?
correct.
Okay. All right, Dave.
I move that we approve the request for an increase in the allowed secondary menu board sign height by 5.6%.
Second.
Motion by Dave, second by Brian. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bao.
Aye.
Norntov.
Aye.
Paysack.
Aye.
And Sula.
Aye. Okay. As you know, on the public hearing, the variances and special use, we're recommending body to the village board. Clara will let you know when the village board's going to take up these matters. Thank you for your time tonight. Next meeting on the calendar is scheduled for August 7th. Are we going to have one?
I don't believe we have any public hearing items at the moment, but we could have one.
Okay. Open the floor to public comment for anything that wasn't on the agenda tonight. Closing the floor to the public. A motion to adjourn?
So moved. Oh, second.
Joanne, I'll let you figure that one out. All in favor, say aye. 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 Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.